Friends and family and travelers, you're back in the LZ, and good to have you back. And as we all wait for Beyond to eventually get here, whenever the hell that's going to be, all of the speculation and the fun conversation we have about the potential possibilities of what No Man's Sky Beyond is or could be has been a super great time. And one of the more crucial topics to No Man's Sky has been an online capability. It's been one of the most controversial items about No Man's Sky since launch. It even after a somewhat formidable online component has been added to the game, it still remains a contentious topic. So regarding No Man's Sky Online, I'm going to touch on a few items today of discussion, so I'll encourage you to be here for the whole video while we talk about sort of the whole item and the whole conversation that we can have about this part of the update for Beyond. We'll ask, what is No Man's Sky Online? We'll talk about the absolutely crucial needs that the game has for Beyond and its online component. I'll highlight what I think are some of the realistic possibilities that No Man's Sky Online can be. And then lastly, I'll tell you why No Man's Sky is important to have an online capability like No Man's Sky Online. So before we jump into those items, earlier today I asked for your tweets about the subject, and I'll show them here throughout the vid for your viewing pleasure. Thanks for tweeting at me about the No Man's Sky Online subject. And do follow me on Twitter to engage in further conversations and potentially have your tweets featured in videos. Feel free to comment below. What do you want No Man's Sky Online to be? I would love to have your discussion in the comment section below. And lastly, if you like the content here in the LZ, consider supporting the channel with donations and purchasing merch. I got all kinds of wonderful goodies to help us along here in the LZ in the description below. So in order to have a discussion about No Man's Sky Online, I'm just going to set the bar for this discussion from what No Man's Sky and Sean Murray had revealed about Beyond in the beginning. I'm going to read a select passage and I'm going to pick apart sort of the emergent details from this particular passage. No Man's Sky Online includes a radical new social and multiplayer experience which empowers players everywhere in the universe to meet and play together. While this brings people together like never before and has many recognizable online elements, we don't consider No Man's Sky to be an MMO, and it won't require a subscription, won't contain microtransactions, it will be free for all existing players. These changes are an answer to how we have seen people playing since the release of Next, and is something we've dreamed of for a long time. So first things first, I want to talk about the first sort of detail in that passage. Empowers players to meet and play together. This exact passage is exactly why I take issue with certain members in the community for No Man's Sky wanting the game and thinking that the game is sort of what was originally pitched in its original vision. There are certain folks, whether they are a regular player of the game or not, that want that original vision intact for the entirety of the life cycle of the game. Back in the day, nearly 3 years ago, this was almost taboo to talk about. Having people sort of empowered to come together was really not what Sean Murray wanted. It wasn't the original pitch for the game. Now we've done a complete 180 from that, and it really, I think that creates some problems. Mainly with, if we're giving too many tools for people to meet, that's going to make the size of the galaxy super small. Now I don't exactly have an issue with sort of making it easier for players to get together. I just want it to be more engaging. I want there to be a reason, and I want to be able to work for that a little bit to cross such a gigantic space that is a normal sized No Man's Sky galaxy. But depending on how they do it, I think this is going to be super awesome for them to have ways for players to come together, but not only that, for them to have a reason to come together. I'm still largely a solo player because really I don't see too much of a reason to play with other people. It sounds crazy and I really want to play with others in No Man's Sky, but simply being able to traipse around the galaxy together, holding hands and mining combining things isn't exactly an attractive gameplay loop to me. The second part I want to pull from that passage says has many recognizable online elements. Sean Murray has said some pretty nebulous things in the past. I think we all agree on that. But this may be one of the most nebulous things he says. Has many recognizable online elements. Now, I want to hazard an assumption and take this as modern elements, modern things that people are enjoying. So why don't we just sort of quickly kind of go over some of the modern recognizable online elements, right? Obviously, Battle Royale is a thing. That's the elephant in the room. No, I don't think that No Man's Sky is getting a Battle Royale. Of course, I would be all for it, because just imagine a massive Battle Royale on a planet-sized planet, but that would require that No Man's Sky had thousands, probably, of visible players in its servers in one particular solar system. I just don't think that's realistic or really possible with No Man's Sky, but it's still a fun talking point. Some really popular games and online recognizable elements that we have today are sort of hero or class-based games and shooters like Rainbow Six Siege and Overwatch. And I know I didn't say that. I know I said that we wouldn't be getting something like Battle Royale, but like Apex Legends has hero or class-based type gameplay. You have shared universe games like the Destinies and the Divisions, games like Anthem. All of these are shared universe types games, and I think those are more realistic examples of what No Man's Sky Online could be relating to recognizable online elements. I've said so before back in my 2.0 video when I talked about things like dungeons and structures and PvP and PvE raids and things like that. No Man's Sky could really fit that type of gameplay. I don't really see No Man's Sky getting a PvP component, but I don't necessarily think that it's outside of the realm of possibility, nor would I find it unwelcome as an addition. If you do it just right and you have a shared universe type of situation, if you get your loot right, if you get your classes right, if you handle it right, and a lot of this stuff, like I discussed in some of the previous videos in the channel, please do take a look. No Man's Sky is already kind of primed and already kind of has a base infrastructure for these things, right? It has a base loot concept. I just don't think it utilizes it correctly. I think they just need to reorganize these things. They have color coding, they have rarity, they have different types of aesthetic looks, different types of weapon and ship classes, lettered rankings, and things like that. All of these things could really work. Even since before launch, if I thought about a PvP type component in No Man's Sky, I always thought about something like PlanetSide 2, right? Super large maps with combat with a lot of people. I think it's like 100 people, right? In PlanetSide 2, it's been a minute since I've played that game, but it's super cool. And most of it is about sort of like a sort of conquest type of gameplay, right? Capturing and owning territories. No Man's Sky can take this concept and crank it to 11. It would be super special. Now, they haven't said anything about how many players would be in No Man's Sky Online. The maximum amount of players that can be in one area at a time, whether they have a player model or not, is 16. I already feel like that's a lot for a smaller indie title, right? For a tiny group of people out of Guildford. But I would absolutely be shocked, but not surprised necessarily, that Hello Games can pull off something much larger. The question is, would they even have the internet infrastructure to be able to do it? The last phrase I want to pick apart out of that phrase, out of that passage, is how we've seen people playing since the release of Next and dreamt of for a long time. So there's a lot to unpack in even just that sentence. First things first, how are people even playing No Man's Sky Next together? And I really hope that he's not referencing the community missions, the community updates that we were getting from back in the day before they went radio silent again, because I'm just going to be brutally honest here. Those things were terrible. I'm being as honest and objective and as reasonable as I can be about saying that. Trust me. And here's the thing. I like the idea. I liked the concept of the community mission. I liked the idea of having one planet and one place to go, but the idea that you have a bunch of orbs going around and you're all just on one planet doing the same menial task that you were doing by yourself, building up some collective meter to unlock a helmet or something. That's a great idea on paper, not on practice, right? So I'm hoping to see that they expand those kinds of things. But building community bases and participating at the galactic hubs and stuff like that, I think that's a better use of our time, and I think that's a better use of sort of what they would look at as a barometer to use on where to go next. And when he says dreamt of for a long time, that's a key indicator of when Sean, even before launch with that GameSpot interview, had said that they already know what they want to do. You know, when it comes to a multiplayer component that they didn't want to talk about right now. So I feel really good that Hello Games have already kind of had a plan in mind for how they wanted to execute in No Man's Sky Online. Even before the game came out, they were talking about a No Man's Sky Online. I forget the magazine, but there was an excerpt in there where they were planning and talking about working on No Man's Sky Online. This was just at launch. So it's been on the way, and really if they've been working on a proper online component since before launch, I'm really excited for what they've been coming up with. So now that we've kind of set the bar on what it could be, let's talk about what No Man's Sky Online crucially needs. First things first, No Man's Sky Online needs a way to opt out, whether it be holistically, whether it be sort of picking and choosing some of the features that you can and can't use at a piecemeal level. One of my pet peeves from the No Man's Sky community are folks who are sort of gatekeeping the game as, no, I don't want multiplayer in my No Man's Sky single player experience. And that's fine. The No Man's Sky has always had a way to opt out and turn those features off. So when I see those kinds of responses on Twitter and Reddit, I always kind of roll my eyes, because it's not like you are being forced to have to endure these things when your sort of solo experience isn't being affected by it. But at the same time, I do enjoy and I do like the idea of having you have the capability of being able to opt out of that type of feature. Not everybody likes multiplayer, and not everybody likes having multiplayer imposed upon them, right? But your experience has been intact, and I think it should stay that way, right? Now, of course, I'm hoping that Sean Murray and Hello Games are doing something to sort of attract you to the idea of being able to play with other people and being able to exist within this online universe that they're creating, whatever it is, but it still should be optional. Secondly, whatever No Man's Sky Online is, it needs to come with an interesting and addictive gameplay loop. With Atlas Rises and with Next, it simply, to me, isn't enough that you can exist together in these areas and on these planets and in these solar systems anymore. It never was. I thought it was cool, and I think there are players out there that enjoy those things, but to me, it is not enough. To me, it is not an attractive or an addictive gameplay hook. It is just a feature with a game. When I did my gameplay problem video, and this was when the sort of electric and explosive jump in my channel began here about a month ago, it was that we needed to stop asking for things in the game and start asking for purpose and meaning to be included with those things. And I think the Atlas Rises and the next multiplayer and cooperative updates, cool as they may be that they added them, were in many ways sort of substanceless, and they lacked meaning and purpose, right? I do enjoy the idea of being able to travel and explore with other people, but I want more compelling reasons to do that. Now I want to talk about some realistic possibilities of what we might get within No Man's Sky Online. We already talked about improved community events a moment ago, and I think that would be something that they should really focus on. It was a good idea at its foundation, but its execution, not so much. Factions have been hinted at since launch, but we really haven't seen a faction system, so to speak, in the game, right? And I think this would be a great time for them to implement factions, whether it be faction alliances, faction wars, faction territories within the Euclid Galaxy and stuff like that. I think it's time to finally put in a faction component that is deep and keeps players coming back to the game over and over, right? I want to be able to align myself with certain groups or certain aspects of the game for whatever reason, and that could even, that can create memes on Twitter and stuff like that, like, the dirty Gek, or it doesn't even have to be really a species type or a species-centric faction, but it would still be a cool idea nonetheless. And even though Sean's nebulous pitchings of what this new component is going to be, I still think that a lot of it is going to be a cooperative engagement focus, right? I don't see them adding a too heavy of a PvP component into No Man's Sky. It's really about having people play together and experiencing the game together, not so much adversarially, but more of a cooperative or a group-based gameplay type thing. No Man's Sky Online is important to No Man's Sky for the longevity of the game. And I did a video not too long ago that talked about and praised Hello Games for really proving that games as a service can be done right. You have games that are 100 times bigger than No Man's Sky, budget-wise and popularity-wise, that are charging $60 for the base game, charging for a season pass, implementing loot boxes and microtransactions, and No Man's Sky has done hardly any of those things. No Man's Sky and Hello Games have never asked for another dime outside of the entry price for their game, and then commonly on updates, and I know the Xbox folks haven't had really a chance to enjoy this yet, but the PS4 and PC folks, whenever there's a new update, generally, when the updates are huge, the game goes on sale, commonly for 25-50% off. Any update, any DLC that this game has gotten has never had a price tag on it. I honestly think, regardless of how you feel about No Man's Sky launch, that's really something that they should get credit for. And aside from longevity and really proving that games as a service can be done right, here we are in year 3 essentially, or approaching year 4 of the game's life, and it's really time for No Man's Sky to gain some mainstream appeal, right? I don't think No Man's Sky is ever going to reach Fortnite or Call of Duty type player bases, right? And maybe that's okay, but it's about time that No Man's Sky gets the thing that keeps people coming back, the thing that prevents people from putting down the controller after a couple of days and moving on to something else. The No Man's Sky universe deserves to be alive. It deserves to be more than what it is, and No Man's Sky Online might help that happen. So that's my rantings about No Man's Sky Online. Please comment below. What do you think No Man's Sky Online is going to be? What do you want it to be? Tell me what you don't want it to be. And of course, if you thought today's video was useful to your No Man's Sky viewing experiences, please do subscribe, click the bell, etc., etc. And do consider checking the description below for ways to support the LZ. I'm a single income family currently living in a big city and trying to stay afloat, and I really do enjoy content creation, and I do appreciate those who help keep the LZ afloat. No Man's Sky Beyond can drop any week now, and we'll be here to cover it, of course, along with the other YouTube No Man's Sky mainstays like your buddies Cobra and etc. And do check back here in the LZ for more. See y'all later.